Good. Hey guys, welcome back to the Compost Pile, your podcast for all things gardening and homesteading. I'm Aaron. With me, as always, is your co-host David Poole, owner of Mid-County Farm and Feed, where you can find all kinds of seeds and soils and everything you need to set up your springtime garden that we're coming up with. And speaking of that, what are we talking about today?
We've talked a little bit about this before, but I think it deserves a little bit more attention. Some good old herbs.
Herbs. It's funny you say that. That is like my favorite thing to grow.
It's become one of my favorites.
Truly,
for sure.
Yeah.
It's definitely becomes more of a year-round staple.
Yeah.
You know, there's always something. I was out before I came here today to record, and I looked at a bunch of the mint I had potted up that I had cut back because it was looking pretty crummy from the winter, and it's all flourishing
Looking
back
stringy.
and,
Yeah.
starting to look good. And then I had one that I didn't cut back, and it still looks pretty crappy.
Yeah, I mean, you can grow herbs year round. It's one of the things that is super easy to grow. They grow like weeds because they literally are weeds. And all you have to do is grow mint to know that, right?
Yeah.
Put mint in the ground instead of in a container, and
See what happens.
you'll find out it's a weed. But yeah, herbs.
Yeah, I think there's some really like cool benefits to herbs, and then for the average gardener that comes in or that goes out and buys plants, soil, if they're growing vegetables or a spring garden, most of the time they're just focusing on tomatoes, peppers. They're focusing on like
If you're a first-time gardener and you're focusing on tomatoes, I got bad news for you. You're messing up. But
talked about this in a couple episodes back. Like, you can start out, but like you got to be real selective about
Sure.
what you choose. And part of that success, I think, comes from having herbs, because not only do you get culinary benefits from
Yeah.
herbs, but herbs bring natural pest control to the table.
100%. Yeah.
So a lot of times insects find their like target plant by scent, by smell,
Sure, yeah.
and by incorporating herbs into a garden, which is, you don't find a lot of people doing that. They're planting only what they want specifically. So, there's a lot of people out there, they don't care to grow herbs. They don't want to mess with it.
Yeah.
They're intimidated by them, but yet a lot of them, and we'll talk about some easy ones in a little bit, like they're really simple to grow and they bring so many benefits, even if you don't want to harvest them. I've got some that I don't really harvest. I grew pineapple sage, for instance, this year, and I had hummingbirds hitting it. We had pollinators hitting it of all different types.
It's not even an herb because we don't think of it as herb because that's more of a, like you said, a culinary distinction, right? Because it means you eat it. But I grew a lot of blue mealy sage.
Okay, yeah.
And it was for hummingbirds, right? It was pollinator attractor. And it is sage. You can tell. I'm just not eating it. Yeah, but it grows a nice, vibrant stalk of blue flowers. Beautiful, beautiful plant. Yeah.
I think you've got to, no matter what you're growing, you've got to incorporate some herbs in there. If for nothing else, there's two things, that it's going to get. Obviously, we've already mentioned it, pollinators. Mm-hmm. Pollinators are so important. So many people don't think they have enough, or they're facing pollination issues.
Yeah.
And their garden is not diversified. And that brings me to the second one, is it brings diversity. You're making a much more well-rounded environment that attracts different types of pollinators.
Right.
And that's where we've mentioned this before about like just people talking about how I don't have honeybees. So honeybees are not the only pollinator
They're also not native to our entire continent. So if you don't have honeybees, that's probably fine.
We're looking for a wide array of pollinators. I know probably listeners have heard us talk about the infamous dill plant.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the mammoth dill that you grown.
I still got it's still there.
It's still going.
It's growing large.
So even after it's bolted and went to seed and stuff, it just went right back to like a little shrub. And
I didn't cover it during the freeze.
It's like, hey, I'm ready to again.
Yeah, and that doesn't always happen. It could have died in the freeze, but it's growing back. It's full again. It's lush. I mean, we're talking like monster stalks at one point. They were so thick and so tall that we just had to hack it down because it was just it didn't
But it
look
came
good.
back up kind of from the root stock,
It reverted that energy and shot up new shoots, and it's now kind of bushed back out, and hopefully
Yeah.
it's going to be full again in anticipation that this season we see more swallowtail caterpillars.
And before the winter, when it bolted and all that, you were steadily harvesting off of that dill. And did you say you got like a half gallon of dill?
I got a quart jar.
A quart jar.
Pretty darn full of it.
Yeah.
And I mean that's only like from a small. We didn't harvest as much as we could.
That's pickles for years.
I could
literally
have
pickles for years.
I could have probably harvested and dried and processed at least 2 more times what I had.
Yeah.
But, a lot of times we let it grow, and in the very beginning we had caterpillars on it, so we just left it and they ate it down to branches, and then it grew back.
But those caterpillars weren't eating your other things.
No, they weren't.
Right? They were eating the thing that was expendable, the thing you didn't care as much about, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And at the same time, like, that was one of the benefits of planting that. It wasn't all for me. I got what I needed out of it, but I was able to provide a habitat. It's just like as we get into spring, everybody's going to start asking for, proper species of milkweed. Each pollinator
for the butterflies.
Yeah,
right?
For each pollinator or butterflies, moths have things that they prefer, and that provide the amount of proteins and sugars and nectar, pollen, whatever they need, in the right amounts, so that they can complete their life cycle.
Right.
So, dill is always a good example.
I mean, I have my example, and this is probably the 17th time I've talked about this. But if you're not planting basil in your garden and just letting it go to flower, you're really missing an opportunity, because they are such a prolific flowerer, almost no matter what cultivar of basil you have. And you pointed out what African blue is?
African blue was last year. I didn't have any. Like I didn't get any, but I think we have a mother plant here at the store, and it's looking like it's kind of coming back out. So I'm hoping I'm going to get a propagation.
Yeah.
And I would grow that. It's wonderful tasting, even when it's full of flowers. But it is the most abundant pollinator.
I've never seen anything attract pollinators more than basil. And I missed it for a really long time, right? Because I like to cook. So when I'm growing herbs, a lot of times I'm growing them and cutting them when they're young.
Yeah.
I'm not really letting them bolt. I'm not letting them flower, right? If I'm growing cilantro, I'm just cutting it all off and I'm using it. But there is so much value to letting it go into flower.
But even if you don't let it go to flower, every herb, you think about what do herbs bring to the culinary perspective? They bring aromatics. They do bring flavor. But when we think about gardening, aromatics are really important. Just an unrelated example, but and like lemongrass, people talk about how lemongrass and
you mean
geranium,
the mosquito repellent?
Yeah, but that all comes from those aromatics releasing the oils from the foliage, and that basically it disrupts a pest's or an insect's like receptors to where it makes it more difficult to find what they're looking for. So by you can do it many ways. It's obviously just beneficial to have them in or around the garden. Some people may have them an herb bed.
Yeah.
And, you might have that ideally centrally located so that it's around all the other things. Or you can take the more chaotic approach like I like, and that's just, I have some herbs in every single bed.
That's how I like to do it too.
It's dedicated space.
Yeah.
I sometimes I'm thinking, like maybe I shouldn't have this herb next to this plant, but everything is in such close proximity that it kind of just works most of the time.
I do that sometimes. Like, so every year I have a salsa garden, and I'll grow a cultivar of tomato and a cultivar of pepper and then cilantro, and I'll grow it in really close proximity to each other. And it might just be like sort of witchcraft or something, but in my head, I'm like, they're all going into a blender. I'm growing them beside each other, and they benefit from it. They really do. They all benefit from it.
Just like basil and tomatoes, it's a good combination.
Yeah.
You pair that even with the French marigold, then you have essentially a pest trap. Where pests are attracted to potentially the marigold first. You have the aromatics from the basil. Maybe disrupting their ability to find it and prolonging pest pressure on plants. So it's kind of a 3-piece combination with your fruiting and rooting type plants and herbs and flowers.
Yeah, there's so many really good and really easy herbs. And I'd like to stress to everybody that if it is your first time growing plants, start with herbs. It's the easiest thing that you can grow. I'm not kidding with you. It is. There are weeds, any herb. I don't know a single herb, unless you're trying to be, a jackass and say saffron or something, which isn't. But any herb is the easiest thing to grow. Oregano, basil, any type of mint. All of these are incredibly easy. Chives.
Yeah.
I have a chive that I've never taken out of the pot for about 2 years right now.
I have a couple that I haven't
And
watered.
I don't water it.
Know how long.
I don't water it. I just let it be, and it's still there. It's still going. Every now and then I go out with scissors, chop it off, cook with it, comes right back. They're bulletproof. They'll last over the winter like yours,
Yeah.
and also for a new gardener, one thing that I think people don't really think about is that we have such little attention spans as people nowadays, right? So when you're first starting gardening and you're doing it for food, especially when we're growing like tomatoes, if you are not reaping the benefits of what you sowed immediately, you lose interest.
Yeah, really,
right?
really quickly.
Real quickly. You're growing a tomato, you have the vegetative growth, maybe it's an indeterminate or something. If you don't get tomatoes that first season, you're going to be soured on the experience.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, never doing that again. That's never going to happen with you with herbs.
Because there's definitely some that, are so simple and they'll stay for so long. So
Oh, yeah.
let's talk about which ones that we think are the easiest.
Okay,
That
yeah.
are the most carefree. I'm definitely going to say, I'll agree with you, like basil would be in my top 5 easiest herbs.
Basil's the top 5 easiest herbs?
Specifically, more of the flowering basils, not
Yeah.
so much the large leaf Genovese
The
basil.
Genovese are a little different.
They
but
grow easy, but they're
They're thirsty.
yeah.
They're thirsty.
But not the Italian basil, but
The Thai basil
the
is
African blue,
easy.
the Thai, even
Yeah.
my lemon basil, it gets really, really woody, very quick as
It does.
As it grows very
It gets
fast.
shrubby. It's
Yeah.
almost like a shrubby thing.
It does.
Yeah.
It grows definitely. It reminds me. It grows almost like an ornamental, like sage or salvia. It's very
Yeah.
upright, bushy, and they can take a lot of space though. If depending on the variety, African blue can get massive.
They get huge, yeah.
if you just let it go.
Yeah.
But they are easy to grow, especially even if you are going to try to grow something like tomatoes, because they like the same conditions. They can handle the heat. I would
The Genovese, not so much.
not as easy.
but-
no.
But yeah, but most of them can, yeah.
Probably the second and probably truthfully for me the easiest to grow, because it's almost you can take care of it like you would a succulent properly, because it doesn't like a lot of water, would be rosemary.
Okay.
Rosemary can be ornamental. You can get rosemary shrubs.
Yeah.
I prefer like the trailing rosemary because it's easy to stick it on the edge of a raised bed or a garden and let it like flow over the edge, leaving all the other space that I have like more available.
Right.
And it'll grow on like just kind of laid across the ground. And I've had the same one for 4 years now, and I mean it's massive.
So, yeah.
I could get all the rosemary I could ever want off of it.
It is like we brought the Genovese, and Genovese is thirsty, right?
Yep.
The exact opposite is for rosemary. And I know people that have tried to grow rosemary every year here, and they can't. And it's because rosemary is a Mediterranean plant,
Yep.
and it doesn't like to have wet feet.
Nope.
So so funny enough, rosemary actually will thrive for someone who neglects it.
Yes, I mean,
right.
if you can grow cactus or succulent, you
Yeah.
can easily grow rosemary. And it is important to know that, because you need to make sure that you do choose a bed or a space. For somebody like me, it's been in the same place for so long. Like I'm not digging it up and moving it.
Oh, no.
I don't need any more
Also,
of it.
also, it's clearly happy there, right? Yeah.
And so I have to make sure that I don't plant very thirsty plants next to it. I need things that are very hardy,
Right.
slightly more drought tolerant. I'll typically put peppers and eggplant around it, because those can go longer periods of time between my waterings, and I can keep it happy. So I think
Your chili peppers, maybe not your
the real hot
Maybe not
peppers,
your-
not my bell peppers.
not
no.
your bell peppers,
No.
but your chili peppers. Yeah,
They're thirsty. all the
absolutely.
time.
So that's second. I'd say going along with that too. An herb that people don't actually think about a lot, but is so tolerant to abuse is sage.
Yeah.
Right? Sage is so tolerant to abuse. There's so many different types of cultivar. When you think of sage and you think of the type of food that it's in, we just think about root words of stuff, right? Sausage,
Right.
sausage, right? Pork.
Stuffings
That's
and
stuffings
you know,
and all that, those continental things. So sage has a really good place in the kitchen when we're cooking continental and traditional food, right? But it's also like drought tolerant. There's ornamental varieties that you won't eat, but they're beautiful. Have you ever been to Faux Four Seasons, the pho place off of College Street? So they have, outside of that place, they have a giant, I think it wasn't meant to be a planter, but it's a not a cauldron. What's a circular concrete tube that goes inside ditches?
Culvert?
A culvert. So there's a culvert standing on its end, and that's the pod.
Okay.
That's the pod for it. It's about yay big, and it has like a Texas sage in it. And I know that thing never gets any rain, never gets any water. It gets the sun beating down on it. It's just in concrete, and it's the most beautiful plant I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
It's just the power of sage, man. Yeah.
There's another one that I like that is more not for mostly culinary that I like to grow every year, and I don't know the technical name for it, so somebody can correct me or tell me I'm wrong. But we grow it each year, and it's really good to keep specifically for us in our area because it has not necessarily medicinal qualities, but it's known as like the Vicks Vapor Rub plant. So it grows like these long stalks with very like soft leaves. It grows very similar to like one of my favorite types of oregano to grow is cumin oregano.
Okay, yeah.
Super giant, like soft leaves. The aroma is like incredible. Like it just flies off the plant. You know, you don't have to touch it and you can smell it.
Yeah.
It's really strong. But that Vicks Vapor Rub plant will at least
I don't
have
even know
one.
what it is.
And it grows, but you can take those leaves, you can turn them into like a salve, and you know for like congestion, it smells exactly like Vicks Vapor Rub that you buy, but it's a natural plant.
It's just
You can-
it has menthol in it.
You can steep it over, you know, like water for like aromatherapy.
Right.
And we keep that a lot. It's because it's simple. It's very succulent like, very much like rosemary. We can put it somewhere, and we did it this year. It didn't get as big, but it grew. We grew it almost in kind of partial shade.
Yeah.
And it did pretty good, but it can get like out of control, and it will like jump containers like mint. But we did it one year, and it was just massive. But
Yeah.
it's a good one that we like to keep around because it actually has some functionality outside of like cooking. And you just go out there and pick what you need, and you can use it.
I don't even know what that plant is. I'll have to figure that out.
I'll have to show you one. I need to find the actual name. But
Right.
When we go, and
That's the thing about a lot of herbs and stuff too. Is it's like they're all traditional and it's all like folksy, right?
Yeah.
And it's you know the menthol plant. Like we don't actually know what it's called because they've been used for so long, medicinally and culinarily, right? So they're just different from the way we treat them differently than we treat produce plants. And I love that about them. I really do. I love the folksy nature of them.
yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier like oregano.
Yeah.
I like oregano too for a couple of reasons because it is pretty easy to grow. Overall.
Very easy to grow.
It brings an uncharacteristical benefit that some of the other herbs don't have, and thyme will also fall into this.
I kind of put thyme and oregano kind of together. They grow really similarly.
And
yeah.
they're a ground cover, so they
are.
are good for low-lying weed and just basically living mulch. So suppression of
creeping thyme is amazing. Like red creeping thyme, amazing ground cover. You're not going to eat it, but it's amazing ground cover.
But your standard like culinary type thymes, they do pretty well, and they're good to have, and you can use them in spaces that you have like somewhat open in between other things. We always have oregano kind of growing towards the edge of some beds.
Yeah,
and, you know, we'll still be
able to let it pour over.
Yeah, or we'll be able to put things in between, and they'll just kind of be like the natural mulch. I don't have like my pine straw or whether it's my composted mulch in there. They're doing the job.
They're doing the job of covering the ground, which mulch does, and also pest deterrent.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's doing double
Dual
duty.
purpose.
There's so many good oreganos that you can get. I love the hot and spicy oregano. That's a really good. I've had a chocolate oregano, which is really interesting. I've had a mango oregano. People just go wild with some of these things.
There's so many different species.
There's so many different ones. And then thyme is really good too. My favorite thyme is actually German thyme. I think that when I'm talking about thyme, and we were talking about ground coverings and culinary versus non-culinary, sometimes too, the difference in a culinary herb and say a ground cover is actually just age, right? Some of these culinary herbs are just really young, right? Herbs. So thyme can be just young. So the ones that you get and you stuff in your turkey, that type of thyme, or put in your chicken noodle soups, are almost any type of thyme. They're just young. They're just sprigs and soft. But if you let it go, it's going to get barky and it's going to become ground cover. So there's a lot to it, but it's so easy and it's so carefree and it's forgiving to grow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other two that come to my mind kind of grow at two different ends of the spectrum. Parsley, cilantro, both in the same family.
Right.
While they're not necessarily like big flowering herbs, they do have good aromatics.
Yeah.
And like parsley is kind of like the dill. One plant, like, why would you ever need to buy parsley?
I have a parsley that
again?
just came back. It froze, it died away, and it just literally just came right back. And now it's bigger now than it was last year.
But one of the things that like cilantro and parsley bring to the table that some of the others don't as much is they bring in predatory insects, like parasitic wasps. They might attract like paper wasps. So things that can come into the environment that are a pest.
The things that will kill the grubs, right?
Yeah, they'll kill other insects. Like
for sure.
A parasitic wasp.
I didn't even know that. I didn't think about that. Yeah.
There's a type of parasitic wasp that will actually lay its eggs on the outer part of a certain worm. I can't remember the species. And that worm will finish its life carrying those little eggs, and they look like little spikes in them, and it's kind of interesting. And that's how that particular insect reproduce, but at the same time they are destroying.
They're destroying like your.
They're destroying the pests
like
that
the hornworms and all those.
I think it's the hornworm.
It's a hornworm,
yeah.
And the hornworm, if you've ever grown tomatoes, will just wreck shop. It will just destroy everything.
Yeah. And if you like parsley, which parsley has a longer growing season, cilantro, everybody likes cilantro, but cilantro really. It only really does well when it's cool.
It does,
not
yeah.
Like,
and most people plant it a little too late, and it will get like half the size they want, and then it will bolt.
Yep, and
right.
Most cilantros that you buy, if you grow them by seed, they'll be slow bolting cilantro. They've been bred to go to seed or flower slower, but here it gets so hot, it still happens pretty rapidly. So making sure you're timing on some of those is important. Fall is like one of the best times to plant cilantro.
It's the time I've had the most success with.
Yeah, because you're getting, it's cooling off, and that cool season is so long, almost up to late January, February. Then we get really cold, and it might get bit or die back. But by then, I mean, you can harvest quite a bit.
Yeah, and then there's also too. So when we're talking about the world of food and culinary stuff, plants have so many different. What's the word I'm trying to look for? They occupy so many different niches. So when we're talking about cilantro, you have your cilantro leaf, which you use as an herb. Right. And you chop that up, that goes on in pico de gallo, it goes on top of tacos. We see that all the time. Right. But when you let cilantro go to seed, it makes cilantro seed, or what we know as cumin. Right?
It's coriander.
Coriander.
Yeah.
And then what happens when you grind up coriander? It's cumin. That's what cumin is. So it's a spice.
Yep.
Right? All of these herbs are, when they're young, they're herbs and you chop them up. But then when you let them go, they become spices. Mustard, right? We eat the leaves of the mustard green, but then when it goes to seed, it makes mustard seed. You grind that up, you make the condiment mustard.
Yep.
So there's so much food and there's so much culture along all of these plants, and they make such different products at different points of their life, and it's really, really fun to like start out growing and start out gardening and grow, a little cilantro. And then you get to pick it when it's young. It's 3 weeks from when you bought it as a seedling, and you putting it on your tacos, and you go, and it comes back to when I was saying that we're an instant gratification people.
Yeah.
You get it right then, and you see it, and you go, hey, I grew that as some of my tacos. But if you let it bolt, and you let it go to seed, and you ground your own coriander, you're gonna be hooked, man. You're gonna be like, oh man, I could survive the
But
apocalypse.
it's not only like instant gratification, but it's like lasting gratification.
Oh yeah,
because
100%.
Because almost all those herbs you're cutting a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And so then it grows more and more and more. So it's something that's so simple that's going to give you that feeling of success.
And you're
time
getting
again.
a quart of dried dill,
Yeah.
right, out of it, right?
That
Do you know how much ranch dressing you can make with a quart of dill?
A lot of pickles too.
A lot of pickle, everything. So it's such a high satisfaction sort of a group of things that we grow in a way that, yeah, when I grow tomatoes and I eat them, it's amazing because I put so much work into it, right? But with herbs, I ain't got to put any work into it, and I get a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, I agree.
It's, oh man.
Your tomato plant, and pepper plants, they're not giving you those biodiversity benefits. I mean, they are in a sense, but they're not helping you create biodiversity.
No,
not helping you create like this little ecosystem in your garden or your yard, like herbs do.
And herbs protect that. They protect your pepper plants. They protect your tomatoes. They protect your eggplants. You know what I mean? They do, because they're so full of chemicals, right? And when we're talking about smelling stuff, you say that bugs detect plants by what they smell like, but we could use a different word for smelling, which is just chemical detection. When we're smelling things in the air, we're just detecting the chemicals that make up the air, right? And the chemicals in herbs are great.
They are.
Bugs hate them, and we love them. You know what I mean? That's just, they were just made for us to really enjoy, and made for bugs to just detest. And I love that. I love that. I love it because we're so much bigger that we're like, this poison tastes great.
I think like one of my favorite things about herbs, I feel like every year I can find like a new cultivar of something. Like,
oh yeah,
I mean, like I love growing mint, but like the amount of types of mint is out of control at this point.
I got a pineapple mint from your store like 5 years ago.
You get the mojito mint. There's
I got the mojito mint from here.
Strawberry mint, chocolate mint.
I've never had strawberry mint.
Spearmint,
orange mint.
Yeah, man. It's like the list is just like there's Indian mint. We actually have one that Miss Donna's been getting, and it's not it's in the mint family, but it's not a true mint. It's called lion's tail mint, and it is very. You might not. It smells incredible.
Yeah.
Just like the aromatics, like right off the plant, are awesome. But I got one the other day to take home and plant, but it grows really, really tall.
Yeah.
And as an herb, we're not necessarily going to use it for culinary aspects, but it grows a orange flower that looks kind of like a lion's tail.
Oh, wow.
It. She had one out at the shop between the two greenhouses, and she caught a picture of a beautiful butterfly on it. So an insane pollinator attractor. So
I need that.
There's all these like
I need
different.
that.
There's all these different kinds out there, so you can find something new, and it like to me it brings a fresh life into the space, because I know there's things that I'm like non-negotiably going to plant that like. Okay, like I'm doing this. I've gone through this a million times, but like it's lost the new shiny, the new car smell to it. Like, so I'm always looking for something unique, and I can almost always find it in herbs.
Yeah, there's so many. Like you just said mint, but the same thing could be said about oregano. God, there's so many oreganos.
Yeah,
there's so many basils. It's amazing, and they'll have their own place. They have their own applications. Yeah.
Heck yeah, man.
I love it. I love herbs, and I highly encourage anyone who's starting out gardening to start with herbs.
Yeah.
I promise you, you'll be successful. You'll actually eat it. You'll bear the fruits of your labor quicker than anything else. It's like the perfect gateway into gardening is herbs.
I agree.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thanks for joining us on this one. It's a little bit quicker than normal. Maybe it's just the passion that we have about herbs that kind of just got us going. But hopefully you guys learned something, and we'll see you next time.